Bengaluru to strategize for the big battle of 2024. The UPA has been renamed. It's been renamed as the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. The NDA sources say this is an attempt to wipe out UPA's corruption legacy.
आजादी के 75 वर्षों में हमारा भारत कहीं से कहीं पहुंच सकता था, लेकिन भ्रष्टाचारी और परिवारवादी पार्टियों ने अन्याय किया.
From the attack on dynasty politics to the corruption alliance, the Prime Minister sets the tone for a politically charged Tuesday and for what lies ahead. In the meantime, Stalin's minister K. Ponmudi is being questioned for the second straight day in connection with a money laundering scam. And the ED arrest Mamata Air and CEO of the Kolkata-based channel Kaustav Roy for financial misappropriation. So NDA versus India. You have 38 plus parties on one side versus 26 parties on the other side. What really are the challenges? What are the advantages on each side? That is something that will now be the entire topic of conversation. But as we speak, a meeting of 38 NDA parties is currently underway in the national capital. This meeting right now is being chaired by the Prime Minister. The NDA, remember, was formed in the year 1998. And when it actually began, under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the alliance included about 24 parties. But this time around, it's a bigger and, as the BJP says, a riding NDA, and it's got 38 parties on board. We will also be looking at a concluding address by the Prime Minister that happens a little later. Our sources say that a resolution to have a strong stance against corruption will be passed in the NDA meeting. Now, if you recall, time and again, the Prime Minister has spoken about two very important issues. One is Bhrashtachar, the other is Parivarvad. The Prime Minister again and again has said that the entire opposition that has come in together is a Mahagadbandhan of Bhrashtachar that has gotten together because it needs to save its skin, because all of them today are mired under charges of corruption. The opposition, perhaps that is why, has decided to rename their alliance. Now, earlier, if you recall, it was called the UPA, the United Progressive Alliance, but during the years of the UPA 2, remember, it has that entire legacy, the baggage, if you want to call it that, of corruption. That is why it has been renamed this time to India. That is Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. But just a name and a name change, will that help the opposition? Is there more that the opposition will need to do? What happens to issues of seat sharing? All these are questions that will be discussed and deliberated on. The next meeting of the opposition happens in Mumbai. The date is not yet announced, but right now on the right of your screens, you're looking at images coming in from the national capital where the NDA meeting is underway. And like I said, you will be hearing the Prime Minister who speaks and addresses the allies close to about 8 this evening. But earlier, he's also taken to Twitter. He's spoken also. He said how this alliance has stood the test of time, and it is the alliance that people want. Now, earlier in the day, the Prime Minister has given us a fair insight of how he wants to set the tone for the big battle of 2024. Let's listen in to these highlights.
आज देश के लोग 2024 चुनाव में फिर एक बार हमारी सरकार वापस लाने का मन बना चुके हैं, निर्णय ले चुके हैं. ऐसे में भारत की बदहाली के जिम्मेदार कुछ लोग अपनी दुकान खोलकर बैठ गए हैं. इन्हें देखकर मुझे एक कविता की कुछ पंक्तियां याद आती हैं. एक कवि महाशय ने अवधि में लिखा था। ये अवधि भाषा में लिखी गई कविता है। गायित कुछ है, हाल कुछ है, लेबिल कुछ है, माल कुछ है। 24 के लिए 26 होने वाले राजनीतिक दलों पर ये बड़ा फिट बैठता है। गायित कुछ है, हाल कुछ है, लेबिल कुछ है और माल कुछ है। यानी गाना कोई और गाया जा रहा है, जबकि सच्चाई कुछ और है। लेबल किसी और का लगाया गया है, जबकि प्रोडक्ट कुछ और ही है। इनकी दुकान की यही सच्चाई है। इनकी दुकान पर 2 चीजों की गारंटी मिलती है। एक तो ये अपनी दुकान पर जातिवाद का जहर बेचते हैं और दूसरा ये लोग असीमित भ्रष्टाचार करते हैं। आजकल ये लोग बेंगलुरु में जुटे हैं। एक जमाने में एक गाना बहुत मशहूर था, मुझे तो पूरा याद नहीं है, लेकिन मुझे याद आ रहा है। एक चेहरे पर कई चेहरे लगा लेते हैं लोग। एक चेहरे पर कई चेहरे लगा लेते हैं लोग। आप देखिए, ये लोग कितने चेहरे लगाकर बैठे हैं। जब ये लोग कैमरे के सामने एक फ्रेम में आ जाते हैं तो पहला विचार देश के सामने क्या आता है? पहला विचार देश के लोगों के मन में यही आता है, पूरा फ्रेम देख करके देशवासी यही बोल उठता है, लाखों करोड़ों रुपए का भ्रष्टाचार। इसलिए देश की जनता कह रही है कि ये तो कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है। कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है। ये लोग गा कुछ और रहे हैं, हाल कुछ और है, इन्होंने लेबल कुछ और लगाया हुआ है, माल कुछ और है। इनका प्रोडक्ट है 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले की गारंटी। 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले की गारंटी। साथियों, इस बैठक की एक और खास बात है। अगर कोई करोड़ों के घोटाले में जमानत पर है तो उसे बहुत सम्मान की नजर से देखा जाता है। अगर पूरा का पूरा परिवार ही जमानत पर है तो उसकी और ज्यादा खातिरदारी होती है। अगर किसी दल का कोई वर्तमान मंत्री भ्रष्टाचार के मामले में जेल जाता है तो उसे एक्स्ट्रा नंबर देकर स्पेशल इनवाइटी बुलाकर बुलाया जाता है। अगर कोई किसी समाज का अपमान करता है, अदालत से सजा पाता है, तो उसकी बड़ी आवाभगत होती है। अगर कोई अदालत से करोड़ों के घोटाले में दोषी पाया गया है तो इस बैठक में शामिल होने की उसकी क्वालिफिकेशन और बढ़ जाती है। बल्कि ये लोग तो उससे मार्गदर्शन मांगते हैं। भ्रष्टाचार को लेकर इनमें बड़ी आत्मीयता है, बड़ा प्रेम है। इसलिए 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के भ्रष्टाचार की गारंटी देने वाले ये लोग बड़े प्रेम से, बड़ी आत्मीयता से आपस में मिल रहे हैं।
So that is what the Prime Minister said a little earlier, and like I said, he's going to be addressing all his allies, and perhaps we'll have their entire live coverage that begins close to about 8 tonight, Shravan. But what is your larger sense as you have seen for the very first time, both these possible alliances that will be pitted against each other come the big battle of 2024? You have 38 parties on one side, you have 26 on the other. One is the NDA, the other is India. The larger glue, I think, that gets the entire opposition together is clearly corruption, as the Prime Minister has targeted. But, Shravan, we must also not underscore the fact that there is corruption that the BJP will also have to deal with. The Prime Minister has been very clear that this is a government that has zero tolerance to corruption. And then the latest example that is cited is about what happens in Maharashtra. The challenge is also about the Parivarvad parties, a lot of them that are right now, in attendance at that big NDA meet.
Well, in fact, as I was mentioning earlier, Deepthi, that this is a perception battle of two alliances. One alliance which has basically come together. One, there is no doubt about the fact that this is about countering the Modi factor. Whether the opposition likes to admit that or not, but the opposition parties have been saying that this is an alternative to what they have been saying, an autocratic government. Here, democratic institutions should be valued, and that is exactly what the opposition parties would be doing. Having said that, the Bharatiya Janata Party has essentially labelled this, as the Prime Minister says, it's a conglomeration of corrupt parties, those who are facing corruption allegations. But at the same time, let's not forget, the opposition parties have been raising 2 points. One, that how is it that some of their own leaders, the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders starting from the state of West Bengal, who actually faces corruption allegations, they too have actually been garlanded. In fact, if you really look at the allegation that the Trinamool Congress has been levelling against Bharatiya Janata Party, is their leaders who have been named in Sharada Chit Fund scam and several others. For instance, as far as Ajit Pawar is concerned in the state of Maharashtra, let's not forget that you've had the top leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the run-up to the previous assembly polls. They've actually gone ahead and actually said that it is Ajit Pawar who in the days to come, when the Bharatiya Janata Party comes to power, would be chakki piecing. Now, that is exactly what Devendra Fadnavis had to say about Ajit Pawar. Today, Ajit Pawar happens to be the finance minister of the state of Maharashtra. He was here. We saw him along with Praful Patel entering. So, yes, there are, this battle is going to continue. But it's become very clear what exactly would be the issue that both the alliances would be fighting on. The Bharatiya Janata Party says corruption happens to be one of the major issues. In fact, they say that the alternative it is between a corruption-free government versus a corruption-tainted government. The guarantee that has been given by the opposition parties is nothing but about 20 lakh crore corruption scams that have taken place. And in fact, in the days to come, perhaps the agenda would be basically to highlight every leader from these opposition parties who actually faces some very serious allegations. Having said that, the poll bugle has already been sounded by both the alliances. The NDA, as the meeting is basically underway, you have 38 parties. The number could actually go up. On the other hand, 26 parties of the opposition parties have basically come together. But challenges, lie for both sides. The opposition parties will have the biggest challenge of ensuring that go beyond the perception. How exactly will they come to, find a truce when it comes to seat sharing, especially in states like Uttar Pradesh, that of course in Kerala, in West Bengal, you name it. There are several states where they're going to find it extremely difficult to come to terms with. And exactly who is going to be the face of the opposition parties? As far as the NDA is concerned, remember, it is about the Prime Minister. In fact, JP Nadda has given out the roadmap saying that these parties have now come together only because they believe that one single party cannot take ahead the development agenda. It is all parties coming up from different states. They will have to come together to carry forward the development message. So the positioning that has been done, the Prime Minister has made it very clear that corruption is very important because the country has suffered because of various corruption scams. And he says that the only guarantee that the opposition is going to give is nothing but corruption guarantee.
Okay, and interestingly, there are a lot of parties that got no invite for this meeting in Delhi or Bengaluru. Those are the fence sitters, but then they also hold a considerable sway over a number of Lok Sabha seats. So I think in the next few days, you will see a lot of movement coming in. The opposition's next meeting happens in Maharashtra. That is where they say the convener will be decided. But like I said, a lot could change depending on how the Prime Minister decides to respond to what the opposition has just announced. So what we'll do is we'll quickly head into a break right now. But on the other side, this is our non-stop rolling coverage that continues the big battle of 2024. The teams are already ready.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift-off normal.
Here we have a majestic lift-off of LM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift-off normal.
Here we have a majestic lift-off of LM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift-off normal.
Here we have a majestic lift-off of LM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Liftoff.
Welcome back. You're watching Republic, and let's put our focus back on the big NDA meeting. And do remember one of the very important attendees in the meeting, in fact, not just one, in fact, two, from the same party that has broken after the demise of the father, Chirag Paswan and Pashupati Nath Paras. Both of them are a part of the NDA meet. Now, how really will the things go on with them in the state of Bihar that has 40 Lok Sabha seat? Pashupati Nath Paras, remember, is a sitting union minister. Madhurima spoke to him just a little while earlier on what he believes could be the road forward.
उसमें अधिकांश लोग जो विपक्ष की बैठक है, जहाँ कर्नाटका में बैठक हो रही है, इसके पहले पटना में भी बैठक हुई थी 23 जून को, तो उसमें देखिए एक देहाती कहावत है कि लोग अपने दुख से दुखी नहीं होता, दूसरे का सुख देख के उसको ईर्ष्या होती है। गांव देहात में देखे होइएगा कि कुछ लोग ईर्ष्यालु होता कि दूसरा आदमी अच्छा खाना काहे खा रहा, अपने भूखे है लेकिन दूसरे के अच्छा खाने से उसको ईर्ष्या है। वही बात भी अपने देश में है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी का कद 10 वर्षों में इतना अधिक हो गया कि मैं समझता हूं कि आज तक आज़ादी के बाद से आज तक देश में जितने भी प्रधानमंत्री हुए, इतना बड़ा कद किसी प्रधानमंत्री का नहीं हुआ था। अपने देश की बात तो आप छोड़ दीजिए, विदेशों में भी प्रधानमंत्री का कद है सर्वोपरि नेता के रूप में है। और अमेरिका जैसे देश का राष्ट्रपति ने कहा कि नरेंद्र मोदी जी आप इतने लोकप्रिय नेता हो कि हमारी इच्छा होती है कि आपका ऑटोग्राफ लें। तो देश का प्रधानमंत्री आज विश्व के स्तर पर सम्मानित नेता हैं। तो विपक्ष को इस बात से जलन हो रहा है और विपक्ष कभी एकजुट हो नहीं सकता, क्योंकि देश में भाषा का प्रॉब्लम है। भाषा है, धर्म है, जात है, अलग अलग रीजनल पार्टियां हैं और फिर है एक अनार है 100 बीमार है। प्रधानमंत्री पद के विपक्ष में प्रधानमंत्री पद का उम्मीदवार कौन होगा? जब आज तक ये लोग कन्वेनर नहीं बना सका तो प्रधानमंत्री कहाँ से बनावेगा? इसलिए ये बिल्कुल ख्याली पकाव है, वो असंभव चीज़ है।
सर, आज एजेंडे में क्या रहेगा? क्योंकि
away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of NDA M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
Let's get you this quick news alert coming in. An 18-month-old girl fell into a borewell at a village in Madhya Pradesh's Vidisha district this morning, following which authorities now have launched a rescue operation that is underway. These are the first images that you see on your screens. The rescue team is all ready. We are learning close to the girl. At the spot, the NDRF is also trying its best to ensure that the girl is rescued.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
A very good evening. You're watching Republic and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. The poll battle has indeed begun. The big battle for 2024 meeting of 38 NDA parties underway in the national capital as we speak. A resolution against corruption is expected to be taken up soon. While 38 parties meet in Delhi, 26 opposition parties already have met in Bengaluru to strategize for the upcoming fight against the NDA come 2024. They don't like the name UPA anymore. The UPA has been renamed as the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. India versus the NDA. The NDA sources say this is an attempt to wipe out UPA's corruption legacy. From the attack on dynasty politics to corruption alliance, the Prime Minister has set the tone for a politically charged Tuesday and what lies ahead come 2024. Even as he was a part of the opposition meeting in Bengaluru, Stalin's minister K. Ponmudi was being questioned for the second day in connection with a money laundering scam. So this is a meeting of 38 NDA parties that is currently underway in the national capital. You're looking at these images coming in. The Prime Minister and all these alliance parties right now are in a huddle. The Prime Minister is expected also to speak to them shortly, and our sources say that a resolution to have a strong stance against corruption possibly could be passed in this NDA meeting. Joining us live right now is our colleague Shravan, who's been getting you a lot of details ever since the last few hours. Shravan, what is your larger sense? You know, this battle is equally poised right now. You have the BJP that is looking for a straight third term, but this is not the BJP that was there in 2014, 2019. BJP sources say this is a rising and a shining NDA, getting in more parties on board, 38 this side versus 26 on the other.
Well, in fact, Deepthi, for the Bharatiya Janata Party, let's be very clear. Every election that they have gone into, they've always targeted a brute majority. And that is something that makes the party far more comfortable because, remember, that gives them the leeway to what they say, usher in reforms in the country. And they've been very clear about it even for every state election. Remember, the mission has been way higher than what they have been able to achieve in some of the states. But having said that, that's always been the goal. Right now, it's a different BJP that you are also looking at. Remember, that's because of the perception battle that they are facing. The opposition perhaps wanted to corner the Bharatiya Janata Party by simply saying that they have never been able to keep their allies intact. In fact, they say that most of their allies have shrunk the moment they've got into an alliance with the Bharatiya Janata Party. And several examples have been given, starting from Punjab all the way to Maharashtra, where the alliances have essentially suffered. For example, some fence sitters too. The BJD, for example, happens to be another fence sitter. But having said that, things could really alter with the Prime Minister setting the agenda for the upcoming 2024 polls. And he's made it very clear. On the one hand, you have the 20 lakh crore scam guaranteed opposition unity, and on the other is a 25-year-old alliance. But more importantly, the BJP-led government over the last few years have ensured that this is a government without any corruption. If you just juxtapose the UPA 1 and UPA 2 versus NDA 1 and NDA 2, then you would understand in the second term too, the Prime Minister-led government does not really face the kind of charges that UPA 2 had, starting from 2G to various other scams that were unfolding with every passing day, making the government completely untenable. And that is exactly what we are, that is exactly what the Prime Minister perhaps is reminding everyone every time that he's had a rally in the last few days, and corruption becomes the fulcrum of this entire poll rallies that have actually taken place in the last few days. On the other, as far as the opposition parties are concerned, they say that democratic tools have been completely destroyed by the Bharatiya Janata Party. In fact, they say institutions have been, used have been used as a political tool. So these are allegations that have been leveled against the BJP too by the opposition parties, and they say that these are corruption charges that have been leveled, which are completely baseless. If you see, most of the political parties have taken that line, and if you look at it, at some level, perhaps the glue of these opposition parties are those very corruption charges that the BJP is actually leveling against them. That brings them together, because they perhaps would like to portray the image that, look here, all opposition parties have now been targeted by the Bharatiya Janata Party, and they're highlighting the fact that, look at the timings. For instance, as far as the recent raids that were carried out by the Enforcement Directorate, you've had the DMK saying that on the very day that the Chief Minister was all set to attend the Bengaluru opposition meeting, that is the very day when one of the senior ministers was raided, from whose residence 70 lakh rupees was actually recovered, which the Enforcement Directorate says that the minister was unable to really explain. But having said that, this is exactly what the opposition parties are now highlighting, that it is the misuse of these very tools, it is the misuse of democratic institutions which needs to be counted, and perhaps the opposition parties would be able to give that. But remember, there are several challenges that the opposition parties today face, and these are few things that we're going to highlight in our broadcast after this short break.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Getting in some more breaking news right now. This a day after the searches that were carried out at multiple premises of Tamil Nadu Minister, the Enforcement Directorate has now put out a statement with regards to the recoveries that have been made so far. In fact, on Republic TV, we had got details of the searches that were carried out and the recoveries made so far. Let's break it down for our viewers. In terms of the cash recovery that was done, till about late last evening, we were told that it was 70 lakh. Now that has gone up to about 81 lakh is what we are picking up. Not just that, also we're being told that about 13 lakh rupees, that is foreign currency worth, is what we are being told was also recovered from the premise of the minister. Late last evening, they have also frozen fixed deposit worth about 41.9 crore rupees. Remember, late last evening is when the minister was taken to the Enforcement Directorate's office in Chennai, and for over 20 hours put together, we have given to understand that he was examined by the Enforcement Directorate, who was asked to appear once again before the Enforcement Directorate's office in Chennai sometime around 4 o'clock this evening. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Varshini, who's going to join us from Chennai, getting us the latest details. Varshini, what's the latest update? Did the minister appear before the Enforcement Directorate? And what is it that the minister's office essentially has to say about the allegations that have been leveled against him? Because there have been unaccounted cash that has been recovered from the residence of the minister.
Well, Shravan, if you see, the minister was summoned for a further investigation at around 4 p.m. at the ED office, and right now he is, at the ED office in the third floor of this building, where the investigation is currently ongoing. And we are also hearing from our sources that a doctor and an advocate of the minister have also accompanied him to appear for this investigation. And we are also hearing from sources that the minister, since given his age, he needs medical assistance to be along with him during the investigation of the ED, because it is not sure how long this is going to take. And meanwhile, Shravan, now we can get to understand that there was really a statement that was recorded from the minister, and the ED statement now that has officially been released also says that there was in the probe that the statements that were recorded were misleading, is what the ED is stating. They've stated that this unaccounted cash was stated that they have a family-owned hospital, and this was an attempt to falsify the records, is what ED is stating. Therefore, these are the further allegations that have come out. Initially, it was all about this illegal red sand mining case, which dated back to 2006 to 2011. But now, with all these unaccounted cash that has been recovered, and the misleading statements that have been recorded, because yesterday, Shravan, if you notice, there were two different inquiries happening. The minister was brought to the ED office, and an inquiry was happening here, and at the same time, his son, MP Gautam Sigamani, was being inquired at the residence. Therefore, two different inquiries were happening, and our sources told it that there were contradictory statements that the ED was receiving from both the ends. Therefore, that is why this further investigation is moved to today as well. And now, even now, we are hearing that this investigation might take time. It will go on till late in the night. Once again, today is all what we are picking up from our sources here. Therefore, we'll have to wait and see, Shravan, how this investigation goes further, because of these new evidences and new documents and new caches and all the other things that the ED has recovered from the raids that was conducted yesterday. We'll have to see how this moves ahead, Shravan.
Well, thank you very much, Varshini, for getting us the latest details. On the other side, news and updates continue. We'll get you live updates from the very place where we are broadcasting right now, where the NDA meeting of 38 parties is underway.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
Away from 1. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A. rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from 1. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A. rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from 1. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A. rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 space.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
देश की जनता कह रही है कि ये तो कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है। कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है। ये लोग गा कुछ और रहे हैं, हाल कुछ और है, इन्होंने लेबल कुछ और लगाया हुआ है, माल कुछ और है। इनका प्रोडक्ट है 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले की गारंटी। इन परिवारवादी पार्टियों ने कभी देश के सामान्य युवा की शक्ति के साथ न्याय नहीं किया। इनकी एक ही विचारधारा है, एक ही एजेंडा है, अपना परिवार बचाओ, परिवार के लिए भ्रष्टाचार बढ़ाओ। पहला विचार देश के लोगों के मन में यही आता है, पूरा फ्रेम देख करके देशवासी यही बोल उठता है, लाखों करोड़ों रुपए का भ्रष्टाचार। इसलिए देश की जनता कह रही है कि ये तो कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है, कट्टर भ्रष्टाचारी सम्मेलन हो रहा है। ये लोग गा कुछ और रहे हैं, हाल कुछ और है, इन्होंने लेबल कुछ और लगाया हुआ है, माल कुछ और है। इनका प्रोडक्ट है 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले की गारंटी, 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले की गारंटी। इनका कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम है देश का विकास रोकना, अपने कुशासन पर पर्दा डालना और अपने भ्रष्टाचार के विरुद्ध कार्रवाई को रोकना। अगर कोई किसी समाज का अपमान करता है, अदालत से सजा पाता है, तो उसकी बड़ी आवाभगत होती है। अगर कोई अदालत से करोड़ों के घोटाले में दोषी पाया गया है, तो इस बैठक में शामिल होने की उसकी क्वालिफिकेशन और बढ़ जाती है। बल्कि ये लोग तो उससे मार्गदर्शन मांगते हैं। तमिलनाडु में देखिए, भ्रष्टाचार के घोटाले के अनेक मामले सामने आ रहे हैं, लेकिन इनके कुनबे के सारे दलों ने पहले ही सबको क्लीन चिट दे दी है। इसलिए इन लोगों को पहचाने रहिए साथियों, उनको जान लीजिए। इस बैठक की एक और खास बात है, अगर कोई करोड़ों के घोटाले में जमानत पर है, तो उसे बहुत सम्मान की नजर से देखा जाता है। अगर पूरा का पूरा परिवार ही जमानत पर है, तो उसकी और ज्यादा खातिरदारी होती है। अगर किसी दल का कोई वर्तमान मंत्री भ्रष्टाचार के मामले में जेल जाता है, तो उसे एक्स्ट्रा नंबर देकर स्पेशल इनवाइटी बुलाकर बुलाया जाता है। आपने देखा है कि कुछ दिन पहले ही पश्चिम बंगाल में पंचायत चुनाव हुए, वहां सरेआम हिंसा हुई, लगातार खून खराबा हो रहा है। इस पर भी इन सब की बोलती बंद है। कांग्रेस के, लेफ्ट के अपने कार्यकर्ता वहां खुद को बचाने की गुहार लगा रहे हैं।
$38 parties hold Super NDA meet ahead of 2024.
चार की इस दुकान में जुटे हुए ये सभी परिवारवाद के कट्टर समर्थक हैं। जो परिवार कहे वही सही, फैमिली फर्स्ट, नेशन नथिंग।
Prime Minister Modi's stinging attack on the opposition, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
लिफ्ट Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from launch. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4.
38 parties hold Super NDA meet ahead of 2024.
चार की इस दुकान में जुटे हुए ये सभी परिवारवाद के कट्टर समर्थक हैं। जो परिवार कहे वही सही। फैमिली फर्स्ट, नेशन नथिंग।
Prime Minister Modi's stinging attack on the opposition, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
Thank you for joining us on the biggest story tonight. The 2024 race has begun. The battles are locked. The alliances are being formed. The meetings have started today officially. The anti-Modi front has decided to rename itself. It's not UPA anymore. It's called I.N.D.I.A. I.N.D.I.A. versus the N.D.A. in 2024. In fact, the NDA meeting is currently on, where 38 parties are meeting, and we're getting you some breaking news updates from the national capital. Here are the headlines on the biggest story tonight. NDA meeting is on in the national capital. 38 parties meeting in the 25th year of the National Democratic Alliance. Prime Minister Modi in a short while from now expected to deliver the closing address at the NDA meeting in Delhi. NDA resolution likely that corruption will be the number one issue. UPA renames itself, now called I.N.D.I.A. or Indian National Developmental and Inclusive Alliance. The BJP says NDA is stronger in the 25th year with more parties, but the UPA has been forced to rename itself. Opposition front or the I.N.D.I.A. agrees on one thing: caste census. They want caste census. That's one of the outcomes of that meeting in Bengaluru. And the Prime Minister struck at the opposition even before the opposition met this morning. Says for them it's family first and nation means nothing. As we speak, a meeting of 38 NDA parties is currently underway in the national capital. A concluding address of the Prime Minister is expected in a few minutes from now. And our sources suggesting to Republic TV that a resolution will have a strong stance, a mention of corruption, will take a stand against corruption, which could then become the number one talking point and the agenda of the NDA against the opposition front, now renamed I.N.D.I.A. Opposition has called itself I.N.D.I.A., which is Indian National Development and Inclusive Alliance. And we have some more breaking news updates coming in a short while from now. That's breaking news update number one on the biggest story tonight. NDA could make corruption the number one issue. Corruption mentioned likely in the NDA resolution. Corruption, that's breaking news number one. Let me go across to Shravan joining us live from the venue. Shravan is at the venue, and then I'll go across to Abhishek Kapoor, our senior executive editor as well. Shravan, corruption could be the number one issue we are hearing. What's happening inside? Do we know who are the speakers? What's been said so far?
Well, in fact, the Prime Minister has already set the tone for the 2024 elections. Now, with about 38 parties coming in for the NDA meeting, which only is likely to go up in the coming few days because there are more parties with which the alliance is yet to be stitched. But as far as this resolution is concerned, remember, while there isn't any clarity or no briefing really being done right now by the Bharatiya Janata Party or the other members right now, around 8 o'clock it's suggested that perhaps the meeting will come to an end and then there is a formal dinner that's going to take place. Perhaps only after that some clarity likely to come in terms of the agenda of the NDA. But the Prime Minister, remember, has earlier in the day has already hit out by saying that on the one hand you have a conglomeration of corrupt parties coming together, and the fact that all that they are guaranteeing is nothing but 20 lakh crore scam. That's all that they are guaranteeing. There is nothing else. Let me also try and see if we can see if any of the other leaders that we can try and see if they can go across to. We'll try and see if anyone steps out in a short while from now and get a voice from them too. But so far, remember, the meeting is already underway, and once the dinner actually begins is when the other parties are likely to come in. But remember, Niranjan, I'm really sorry because you got a little bit of distracted with Zafar Islam is already joining us. We've already seen the Prime Minister setting this entire tone for the 2024 elections. But on the other hand, the opposition party, Mallikarjun Kharge, has hit out by saying that BJP has never been able to keep their alliance together. This is a response to the 26 parties really coming together.
Well, NDA meeting is currently underway. I do not want to make any statement at this point in time or any comment on that on the meeting. Let the meeting get over. You will have an official response from the NDA spokesperson.
But any response on what the Congress is now alleging? The Congress alleges that you've not been able to keep the flock together.
Alliance, whatever alliance they have, the UPA alliance or a PDA alliance, their alliance where they are looking for their own convenience, safeguarding their own interest, their own ambition, their own aspiration, but they do not worry about the common man on the street. They don't worry about the people of this great country. They do not worry about the country. The NDA alliance, everybody knows that we have only one ideology. Ideology is to serve the people and safeguard the interests of the nation. That is what our ideology is. And people, those parties who are joining NDA, they have always one faith that we have to work for the betterment of the people and to make our country strong and stronger.
And corruption is the main plank?
Absolutely. Those people who have come together, they are all just do a back testing, find out their past, and you will realize that how much corruption they have done. They have plundered the nation's wealth, and today they will be made accountable by the people of this great country.
Thank you very much. That was the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson essentially saying, being tight-lipped about what exactly the resolution is going to look like. But safe to assume right now, Niranjan, that corruption is going to be one of the major issues and perhaps the way to counter the opposition parties, because as the Prime Minister says, that this is a conglomeration of corrupt parties. And if you actually take a look at almost all the 26 parties, large number of them would actually face some corruption charge or the other. But on the other hand, as far as the opposition parties are concerned, it turns out that in itself is a glue for them. They say that the Bharatiya Janata Party is misusing these tools. Democratic institutions have been completely demolished, and that is the reason why they are offering an alternative. That's what the position that the opposition parties have taken. But the challenges only will keep coming up. There are core issues which are yet to be resolved. For instance, seat sharing, especially keeping in mind that all these parties that have come together would not like to concede ground at this point in time.
Yeah. Stay with me, Shawan. I want to go across to the second breaking news update that's coming in, and we have Abhishek Kapoor also joining us on the broadcast, so I'll go across to him as well. And the second breaking news update, of course, we had a few minutes back the BJP respond to the renaming of the UPA. Let me get you the second breaking news update right now. The BJP's first response to the renaming of the UPA, saying that the NDA was going stronger after 25 years, and this year marks 25 years of the NDA, saying that we are stronger, we have more parties. Irrespective of the size of the parties, we still have more parties. Saying that NDA is growing, but the UPA has been forced to rename itself, given the baggage and the legacy earlier, pre-2014. Abhishek, I want to go across to Abhishek first. After Abhishek, then we'll play out what the Prime Minister said about corruption, talking about most of the parties at the I.N.D.I.A. Abhishek, renaming exercise, yes, they've had to rack their brains perhaps to come up with this name, but the fact is most of those parties, and we counted at least 15 of them face charges, or leaders in 15 of those parties face charges. Not like those in the NDA don't, but I think perception-wise, given the cases, ongoing concurrent investigations, the I.N.D.I.A. parties, constituents face several very, very serious charges.
Well, I think that's why, Niranjan, Prime Minister foresaw it and preempted this announcement of the opposition alliance by making them, or calling them actually, an alliance of the corrupt. And he said that Bhrashtachar ki dukaan. I think it was a very sharp attack, and I recall that this is the first time that the Prime Minister has mentioned the 2024 race. So essentially what we are seeing is the poll bugle for 2024 elections being sounded out today. But coming to the renaming bit, Niranjan, typically if you look at the corporate sector, for example, the renaming of products or companies happens if the earlier product or company has become outdated, has lost relevance, is not attracting customer base, and so is a liability. So is there a suggestion here in this renaming of the alliance from UPA to I.N.D.I.A. that there was a problem with the UPA name, there was a problem of the legacy, and in that perhaps the opposition alliance today has conceded the charge that was made by the Prime Minister today? And that's going to be something which is going to be discussed not just today but all through this election cycle, Niranjan. But what is important is that the lines have been drawn, the trenches dug, And what we are seeing is 26 versus 38. And remember, when the NDA was formed, I saw in the backdrop that this is the 25th year of NDA's existence. And when it was formed for the first time in 1998, it was a coalition of just 13 odd parties. From there to now, 38 gives you an idea of how the coalition has increased in terms of numbers. Remember, just as in the case of the opposition alliance, so in the case of ruling alliance as well, there are many parties which have some electoral footprint but not representation, either in the Lok Sabha or Raj Sabha, or sometimes in some cases even in the state assemblies. But then they belong to certain geographies, they belong to certain caste coalitions, and hence they bring a certain vote share. And I think the strategy is for the BJP to bolster the vote share with this alliance, and it would be interesting to see what kind of resolution really comes out of this meeting that's going on, essentially on corruption, the agenda for which, the contours for which in a way were set by the Prime Minister in his speech in the morning. But Niranjan, what is important is that the two sides have taken a little concrete shape now, and the nitty-gritties of the agenda seems, insofar as finding out cohesiveness, it seems it's a little easier for the ruling dispensation vis-a-vis the opposition alliance, because remember, for example, between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, the AAP scavenges on Congress vote share. So Delhi and Punjab, for example, are going to be no-go areas for the Congress if the alliance has to remain intact. Similarly, between Congress and the TMC, similarly between Congress and other political parties, for example, the left in Kerala, it's a zero-sum game. So it's not going to be easy for the opposition alliance, despite the semantics, despite the optics that have panned out today. And that's the space that's going to be watched out very closely, how the opposition alliance intends to bring cohesiveness on the agenda, on the issues on which they come together, most importantly, seat sharing.
In fact, a breaking news update coming in right now. Before I play out what the Prime Minister said, the Prime Minister spoke about corruption in great detail. In fact, this morning while inaugurating the new terminal at Port Blair, he made a lot of comments, especially about those who are attending this opposition bloc meeting. Himanta Biswa Sarma, the Assam Chief Minister, has just responded to the renaming of the UP, and I'm just reading out what he has said. He says, our civilizational conflict is pivoted around India and Bharat. He says, our civilizational conflict is pivoted around India and Bharat. The British named our country as India. I repeat, he says, the British named our country as India. We must strive to free ourselves from colonial legacies. Our forefathers fought for Bharat, and we will continue to work for Bharat, saying BJP for Bharat. That's what Himanta Biswa Sarma says in a tweet a few minutes back. Here's what the Prime Minister said while specifically talking about corruption in the opposition bloc.
भ्रष्टाचार की इस दुकान में जुटे हुए ये सभी परिवारवाद के कट्टर समर्थक हैं। न खाता न वही, जो परिवार कहे वही सही। लोकतंत्र के लिए कहा जाता है ऑफ द पीपल, बाय द पीपल, फॉर द पीपल। लेकिन इन परिवारवादियों का मंत्र है ऑफ द फैमिली, बाय द फैमिली, फॉर द फैमिली। फैमिली फर्स्ट, नेशन नथिंग। इन लोगों का मोटो है, इनकी यही प्रेरणा है। ये लोग देश के लोकतंत्र को, देश के संविधान को अपना बंधक बनाना चाहते हैं। इनके लिए मैं यही कहना चाहूंगा, नफरत है, नफरत है, घोटाले हैं। नफरत है, घोटाले हैं, तुष्टीकरण है, मन काले हैं। नफरत है, घोटाले हैं, तुष्टीकरण है, मन काले हैं। परिवारवाद की आग के दशकों से देश हवाले हैं। आज देश के लोग 2024 चुनाव में फिर एक बार हमारी सरकार वापस लाने का मन बना चुके हैं, निर्णय ले चुके हैं। ऐसे में भारत की बदहाली के जिम्मेदार कुछ लोग अपनी दुकान खोलकर बैठ गए हैं। इन्हें देखकर मुझे एक कविता की कुछ पंक्तियां याद आती हैं। एक कवि महाशय ने अवधी में लिखा था, ये अवधी भाषा में लिखी गई कविता है। गायित कुछ है, हाल कुछ है, लेबिल कुछ है, माल कुछ है। 24 के लिए 26 होने वाले राजनीतिक दलों पर ये बड़ा फिट बैठता है। गायित कुछ है, हाल कुछ है, लेबिल कुछ है और माल कुछ है। यानी गाना कोई और गाया जा रहा है, जबकि सच्चाई कुछ और है। लेबल किसी और का लगाया गया है, जबकि प्रोडक्ट कुछ और ही है। इनकी दुकान की यही सच्चाई है। इनकी दुकान पर दो चीजों की गारंटी मिलती है। एक तो ये अपनी दुकान पर जातिवाद का जहर बेचते हैं और दूसरा ये लोग असीमित भ्रष्टाचार करते हैं।
Getting in some more breaking news now that the opposition front is going to meet again. After Bengaluru, there will be another leg of meetings where they will perhaps think of an agenda. I don't think they have an agenda as of now. Abhishek and Shravan, they will be meeting again. And that meeting will be held in Mumbai. There is no timeline on the next opposition meeting, but could happen in a few minutes from now, a few days or weeks from now. Let's get you the next breaking news update, and I'll go across to Abhishek as well to get in a word. Because even though they don't have an agenda, they seem to have agreed on a few things, or few aspects, which they believe must happen. That's the next breaking news update coming in. The breaking news update number 4 on the opposition front agenda. They've agreed on caste census. Let's get you that breaking news update. They've agreed on caste census. It's one of the first priorities in the details that came out earlier. A statement that was issued by some of the leaders saying that caste census is one of the priorities. Abhishek, this is typical Nitish, what he's been pressing for, caste census. But how is that going to help?
Well, it has been on the opposition agenda plate, Niranjan, for a while now. Remember, Bihar government, in fact, went ahead and started carrying out a caste census, which was stopped by the Patna High Court in the month of May. And there seems to be an element of hypocrisy or even duplicity. Remember, the caste census goes back to 2011 and it was carried out at that time. But the UPA government at that time, led by the Congress party, conveniently put it on back burner. They could have come out with the numbers, but because they knew it's a hot potato, they can't bring it out because it's going to open a Pandora's box, and that's why it was put on the back burner. And so that will be the case with the NDA government 1 and 2 as well, or 2 or 3 rather. And now, because the opposition thinks that it's better to muddy the waters and make it difficult for the government, perhaps they don't understand that the caste census can come to bite them as well. And it's a legal issue as of now, with the Patna High Court having put a stay on it. So I think this is more political posturing, Niranjan, and you can expect that even the NDA would come out with a response to this, and part of it could be there in the resolution that's getting passed. And if the NDA so chooses not to respond to the opposition alliance on its first day itself, this might come by way of the political campaign that the NDA picks up from now. Remember, the poll bugle has been blown today for 2024 general elections, with the Prime Minister naming 2024 for the first time in his address in the morning. Caste census is something on which many of these opposition parties have had a different position when they were in power. And so I think it's going to be not a very easy debate for the opposition despite whatever posturing they are doing.
Yes, Abhishek. In fact, there was some controversy as well, outside of the opposition meeting. We'll get that next, where there was an allegation of IAS officers being deputed by the state of Karnataka to look after the VIPs, and there's a controversy over that. I want to bring that next, but going across to Shravan. Shravan, what time is the Prime Minister expected to speak? Do we have any input on that?
Well, in fact, all that we've been told a short while back by the spokesperson here from the Bharatiya Janata Party, that roughly around 8 o'clock is when the program comes to an end, and then it's followed by a dinner. As of right now, what's really happening inside is that each of the political parties would have the opportunity to address the gathering. Largely is to come together in terms of bringing a common idea or a part of the resolution that is essentially being spoken about. What's important to point out here is that with the Prime Minister putting together what would essentially be the real agenda of the NDA in the upcoming polls, with each of these, and also for that matter, even the upcoming assembly polls that are going to take place, which is also going to be crucial in some of the states where there's going to be a direct contest. So all that put together, remember the resolution, finality of it perhaps comes in only post 8 o'clock is what we are being told. There's a possibility that they could actually address the media. We're not very sure who's exactly going to do that. Some clarity only likely to come in a little later.
Yes.
Niranjan.
Okay, quick thank you Abhishek and Shravan for joining us on the biggest story tonight. I'm going across to the last breaking news update that I had. There was a little bit of a controversy this morning when Kumaraswamy, the JDS chief there, and of course there is buzz that he's talking to the NDA as well, but the breaking news update was that he put out another set of documents and claimed that IAS officers who are supposed to serve the state of Karnataka have been used as political pawns by the state government, and he put out details of which officer was assigned to which VIP, because 26 parties have arrived in Karnataka. He says they were made doorkeepers for the Congress party, and there was a little bit of an uproar there over that claim. Here's what he said.
40 ವರ್ಷದ ಇತಿಹಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂದೂ ಸಹ ನಡೆದಿಲ್ಲ. ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ರಾಜಕೀಯದ ಸಭೆಗಳು ಬಹಳ ಕಡೆ ನಡೆದಿದೆ. ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ
40 years of Karnataka.
ನಾನೇ ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಬೆಂಗಾಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ
tomorrow in West Bengal
ಬ್ಯಾನರ್ಜಿ ಅವರು ಬಹುಶಃ ಈ ಒಂದು 5 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಅವರ ಕಳೆದ ವಿಧಾನಸಭೆ ಲೋಕಸಭೆ ಚುನಾವಣೆಗಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಮಮತಾ ಬ್ಯಾನರ್ಜಿಯವರು ದೇಶದ ಹಲವಾರು ಭಾಗದ ನಾಯಕರುಗಳನ್ನು ಕಲ್ಕಟ್ಟಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಭೆಯನ್ನು ಏರ್ಪಾಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
ಮಮತಾ ಬ್ಯಾನರ್ಜಿ had also hosted national leaders.
ಆ ಸಭೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವರ ಪಕ್ಷದ MLAಗಳು
and when we went there,
ಸದಸ್ಯರನ್ನ ಏರ್ಪೋರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು.
So back then Mamata Banerjee had sent her leaders, party leaders to welcome us.
ಕಳಿಸಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
But she did not send IAS officers.
ಇದು ಸ್ವೇಚ್ಛಾಚಾರವಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು IAS ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳನ್ನು ಅವರ ನಿಯಮಾವಳಿಗಳನ್ನು ಗಾಳಿಗೆ ತೋರಿ.
It's unfortunate that IAS officers have been sent
ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಿಂದ
by the Congress government.
ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳೇ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಆದೇಶ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
The chief minister has directly given orders.
ಒಂದು ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ರಾಜಕೀಯದ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ನೌಕರನ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ IAS ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಹಲವಾರು ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಿಂದ
they are government servants but being used for political purposes.
ಮಟ್ಟದ VIPs ಒಂದು ಭಾಗ ಓಕೆ. ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂತವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಅವರ ದ್ವಾರಪಾಲಕರಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಲಿ.
But providing IAS officers to see chief ministers and VVIPs is okay, but for everyone it's unacceptable.
ಒಂದು ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ಯಾವ ಅಂತ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನೇ.
The government has brought down the dignity of IAS officers, and the government is trying to induct IAS workers as their party cadres now, is it? Is what he's asking? Okay, that was a controversy that came in. We'll take a short break here on the biggest story tonight, tracking the NDA meeting in the national capital, expecting it to end around 8. So, calculation is that the Prime Minister will be roughly speaking a little after 7:30 p.m. Let's see where it goes. Taking a short break on the biggest story tonight. Stay tuned for the updates on the big political developments in the run-up to 2024. Thanks for watching.
38 parties this whole Super NDA meet ahead of 2024.
चार की इस दुकान में जुटे हुए ये सभी परिवारवाद के कट्टर समर्थक हैं। जो परिवार कहे वही सही, फैमिली फर्स्ट, नेशन नथिंग।
Prime Minister Modi's stinging attack on the opposition, debating tonight at 9 p.m.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
Away from one. Mark and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of I.N.D.A M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
The NDA meeting under the Prime Minister's leadership has now begun and is underway as we speak in the national capital. After 26 parties gathered in Bengaluru for the second day of the joint opposition meeting, the BJP showed its strength with a meeting of 38 members of the NDA in the national capital, the meeting of which is now underway. The NDA front marks 25 years of its alliance today. The meeting of the NDA also organized to mark the completion of 9 years of the central government under the Prime Minister. This morning, the Prime Minister lashed out at the opposition, accusing them of forming a pure corruption congregation in Bengaluru.
भारतीयों के सामर्थ्य में कभी कोई कमी नहीं रही है, लेकिन सामान्य भारतीय के इस सामर्थ्य के साथ हमेशा भ्रष्टाचारी और परिवारवादी पार्टियों ने अन्याय किया.
Prime Minister also slated to make some concluding remarks at the NDA meeting that's now underway in Delhi. Sources saying that opening remarks were made by the Home Minister Amit Shah at the NDA meeting. Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge said that the United Progressive Alliance has been renamed as the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. On BJP holding meeting of 38 NDA members, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge said that he hadn't even heard the names of some of the smaller parties. Congress Chief Kharge, after opposition parties meeting, said that a common secretariat will be set up in Delhi for poll campaign management and an 11-member coordination committee will be set up as well. The names are yet to be decided at the next meeting in Mumbai. As the second round of the meeting of opposition leaders concluded in Karnataka's capital of Bengaluru, Congress National President saying that the next meeting will be held in Maharashtra's capital of Mumbai. Meanwhile, S.D. Kumaraswamy in Karnataka accused the Congress government in the state of introducing IAS bonded labour policy in the state by deputing about 30 IAS officers to serve its alliance leaders. The former chief minister said IAS officers were symbols of state stability and efficiency, and deputing these officials as doorkeepers to serve politicians was in clear violation of All India service rules. Other news from across the country. Speaking at the inauguration of the new integrated terminal building of the Veer Savarkar International Airport, Prime Minister took a swipe at opposition unity.
देश के लोग 2024 चुनाव में फिर एक बार हमारी सरकार वापस लाने का मन बना चुके हैं, निर्णय ले चुके हैं. ऐसे में भारत की बदहाली के जिम्मेदार कुछ लोग अपनी दुकान खोलकर बैठ गए हैं.
Prime Minister Modi attacked the meeting of opposition parties, saying that some people put many faces different from who they really were. They put up an act, he meant, at that opposition meeting. The Prime Minister said that the opposition wanted to make the country's democracy and the country's constitution hostage to their own ambitions. Speaking this morning, the Prime Minister also added that for the opposition, or some in the opposition, it's family first, nation nothing. He called it a corruption summit in Bengaluru, and the Prime Minister saying that it's another specialty of this meeting, that someone is out on bail in a case of corruption, running into hundreds of crores, but they were seen and welcomed with great respect. And if the entire family, he said, was out on bail, then they are even more special at that opposition meeting, is what the Prime Minister said this morning. Prime Minister Modi saying that the alliance partners were hand in glove when they were faced with allegations of scams or corruptions or were exposed in front of the people. Prime Minister Modi saying that every opposition leader in the frame in Bengaluru's opposition meeting was a guarantee of at least 20 lakh crore corruption, if at all they were to come together. The Prime Minister also launched an all-out attack on the opposition party, saying that people were now talking out loud that this gathering in Bengaluru was to promote corruption. The opposition parties, he said, have given a clean chit to the DMK despite corruption cases ongoing and being investigated when his raids were on in Tamil Nadu. He also alluded to the recent instances of widespread violence in the state of West Bengal during the Panchayat elections and stated how various parties from the opposition chose to remain silent on the incidents of bloodshed, arson in the state. The alliance partners in the opposition camp remained absolutely mum, is what the Prime Minister observed. An 18-month-old girl fell into a borewell at a village in Madhya Pradesh's Vidisha district this morning, following which authorities launched a rescue operation. In the latest updates, the girl had been rescued from the borewell and taken to the hospital. Some of the top stories that we're tracking from across the country. Outgoing Wrestling Federation of India chief and MP Brijbhushan Singh Sharan was granted interim bail by a trial court in Delhi. Tamil Nadu Higher Education Minister Ponmudi was grilled again for the second time. This comes a day after the ED conducted searches at his residences in Chennai and Villupuram. Pakistani citizen Seema Haidar being questioned by the Uttar Pradesh Police's anti-terrorist squad for a second day. Her Indian partner Sachin Meena has also been taken in for questioning by the agency. 4 passengers died and 5 others sustained injuries after a container hit a jeep near Mumbai-Nasik highway. Sealed ballot boxes were found at a counting centre in West Bengal. 3 sealed and uncounted ballot boxes recovered from a high school. This is in West Bengal's Malda district this morning. A Kolkata-based news channel owner and businessman Kaustav Roy was arrested by the ED in the wee hours today in chit fund scam running into several crores of rupees. Sources telling Republic that Kaustav was arrested after being quizzed for over 10 hours. Security forces in a joint operation made Operation Trinetra 2 killed 4 terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the operation carried out in the Sindhara area of Poonch was conducted jointly by the Army Special Forces, the Rashtriya Rifles and the Jammu and Kashmir Police along with other combined forces. ISRO successfully performed the 3rd orbit-raising maneuver of the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft. The next firing is planned for the 20th of July between 2 and 3 p.m. Former Kerala Chief Minister and Congress Working Committee member Chandi passed away at a hospital in Bengaluru. He was 79 years old. He was undergoing treatment for cancer since 2019. The US government formally handed over 105 trafficked antiquities to the Indian authorities in New York. The handover follows Prime Minister Modi's state visit to the US last month, where India and the US agreed to work towards a cultural property agreement that would help prevent illegal trafficking of cultural artifacts. More on the Seema Haidar case, which has also dominated Pakistan's Sindh Assembly as lawmakers addressed the recent attacks on the Hindu temples in Pakistan and the threat by radicals there. A new US warship sailed into Sydney, Australia ahead of a historic commissioning this weekend. USS Canberra will be the first American naval vessel to be commissioned in a foreign city in a ceremony at Sydney Harbour Saturday. Well, high anxiety is setting in on the day of the closing day of summit between the European Union and Latin American leaders. It was supposed to be a successful one, but turned out into a diplomatic fracas over the war in Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the military launched a strike of retribution with sea-launched precision weapons on Ukrainian military facilities near Odessa and Mykolaiv. Wildfires outside Athens forced thousands to flee seaside resorts, closed highways and gutted vacation homes as high winds passed flames through hillside scrub and pine forests parched by days of extreme heat in Greece. Turkish President Erdogan met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Now, Erdogan arrived at Al Salam Palace in Jeddah, where he was welcomed by bin Salman. A heat wave has gripped Tokyo, and Japan's Met agencies have issued heat stroke warnings as the temperature in the capital tops 37 degrees Celsius. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visited a flood-ravaged area in the central region of his country. Yoon met with local residents and promised to provide recovery support along with the local government. US climate envoy John Kerry told Chinese Premier that it's imperative for China and US working together to address the issue of climate change. Typhoon Talim made its second landfall in the coastal area of southwestern China's Guangxi province early morning after its first landfall in the Guangdong province on Monday night. And on to some news from the world of sports. And Indian batter Smriti Mandhana has climbed a spot to number 6 while her captain Harmanpreet Kaur dropped to the 8th spot in the latest ICC Women's ODI rankings released on Tuesday. Amid speculation over his fitness, India's star pacer Jasprit Bumrah has apparently increased the frequency of his bowling in the nets.